Hi there, and welcome to the Multiply You podcast, where we showcase top experts in their space and reveal all the secrets you need to know to multiply you.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Austin Clark here, host of the Multiply You podcast. Very excited to be able to spend some time with a wonderful guest, Carl, who I'll introduce here in just a moment. And I can already tell, and just in visiting with Carl for a few moments, that this will definitely be one that you'll want to lean into a little bit, maybe have a pen and paper handy, because he'll share a lot of things that will be valuable and important as it relates to growing a pest control company over the last decade or so. He's done some really, really neat things. This episode, as they all are, it's brought to you by my company, Moxie Pest Control. We've been doing acquisitions for nearly 5 years or so now. We do a handful across the country every single year. And so if you look us up and see that you're in one of the 35 markets that we're in and are interested in having conversations about what the next chapter of your life may look like into retirement, I'd love to have those conversations with you. We're looking for companies that have got a strong brand, have been in business for a little while, 5+ trucks on the road, and just really good bones to work with. Valuations are high, and so it's a good time to not only divest, but learn about that opportunity. You can reach me directly on my cell at 480-254-9730, or you can email me directly at aclark@moxiepestcontrol.com. I love Carl's bio here because it reminds me a little bit of mine, especially the stumbling into the industry part. But Carl, he, like myself and many of us, kind of stumbled into the industry. And I think that we'll talk a little bit more about your background and backstory. But I like to say that no one really looks to go into a career of pest control. Pest control kind of finds you and pulls you in, and that's how you do it. He bought a job and grew a business. He says that in spite of himself, he's been very blessed. They've been having double-digit growth year over year for the last decade, and while maintaining great margins, great cash flow for the last decade plus. He's an active member of the NPMA, or National Pest Management Association leadership, and continues to contribute and serve his state association. So, Carl, welcome to the show. Thank you for being here. How are you doing today?
Hi, Austin. Thank you for having me. I'm doing pretty well. I love this Zoom format because I can put this virtual background behind me and it looks like it's really nice here. It's not. It's about 13 degrees and we've had snow, and last night it was sub-zero. So I love the format. So it looks nice.
I was going to say, I'm not sure where you're at, somewhere tropical looking, but I wish I was there where you are.
No, you don't. I'm in Nebraska.
Yeah, there you go. I'm in Phoenix, and this is the only time people from Phoenix get to brag about the weather in Phoenix is when it's December or January or February. The rest of the year, no one is telling you about how great the weather is in Phoenix. It's 1,000 degrees and no one wants to be here. They all want to be in the swimming pool.
Of course, it's a dry heat though, right?
That's what they say.
Yeah.
That's what they say. Yeah, it's a dry heat. I've been in both. They're both pretty miserable. Look, anything above 100 degrees, 110 degrees, wet or dry, you're pretty uncomfortable. Have a pool or have a friend that has a pool, or stay inside.
Yeah. Indeed.
Well, hey, I wanted to get, people like to understand a little bit of the backstory. So you've been in pest for a decade plus. You kind of told me before that you bought a job. What was happening before 2000? I guess this is 11 or 2012 or so. I know that you were kind of semi-retired. You and your wife were having some of those conversations. You were a little too restless for retirement. And so what were you doing before? What led you to retirement or semi-retirement? And then what pushed you back out into the workforce, if you will?
Well, thank you for asking again. I mean, it's a long, convoluted story. I don't like to dwell on what used to be because sometimes that becomes the story more than what is now. But the short version of it is I went through a kind of a rough divorce, and I went to a dark place in my life, and kind of was a lost soul for a little bit. And my previous life, I was in healthcare. I was a healthcare provider. And anyway, I found my current wife and the right one, if you will. And anyway, we decided to just be retired and enjoy life. But life told us, no, you can't do that yet. You have this property that you need to pay taxes on, and all of this stuff. Plus, I was a little bit young to be retired and restless. So we looked around and found this job to buy, and killing bugs. Okay, let's check this out. Prior to 2010, my knowledge of killing bugs was either with a shoe, or maybe as a kid with a magnifying glass on a hot summer day and those ants on the sidewalk. I know that's cruel, but that's true. That's what it was. But anyway, we found this job, and blessed to learn from a good guy who the value of the business that we bought was the fact that he rode with me for 2 months and personally introduced me to every single client on that list. And,
wow.
And now, 11 years later, I still have almost 70% of those clients as clients today. Some have died, a few have moved away, and a couple have just quit. But it's that was an incredible value. So that's the first thing I learned. I mean, it's the importance of being more than just a face. You know what I mean? I mean to have a soul to what you do, and the value. Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say that is remarkable. I mean, a decade plus later to have that type of retention. And not only that, but I know from speaking with you that the company has grown, like you said, or like I introduced, in double digit numbers year over year for the last decade. And so that list has grown quite a bit as well.
Yeah. One other thing that I wanted to add to, back to the relationship thing that was so strong with Jerry. We don't have customers. I mean, we have a few customers, but we prefer to refer to our clients as clients. The word customer is so transactional, whereas clients has the connotation of a relationship. And so that's kind of part of our culture anyway. So I wanted to put that out there.
So before Carl, you were in the medical space. Mm-hmm. At that time, why didn't you either go back to the medical space, or the bigger question that I have is, what drew you to pest, something totally and completely different than what you were doing or what your education and background was? What was the draw there?
Well, there's where I respectfully disagree, Austin. First of all, people that are in pests know that we are the front lines of defenders of public health, and we leverage that angle in our marketing. I mean, we protect public health. So it wasn't that much of a stretch. I mean, we're solving problems that people can't solve themselves. I mean, the pain point is a little different. I mean, an abscess tooth is different than having a termite infestation. But nonetheless, I mean,
they cost about the same to get rid of.
That's right. So anyway, what drew me to pest was, first of all, it was science, a lot of science. And again, it's helping people solve problems that they can't help themselves. We're a very client-centric business, and the people that work for me are great like that. That's part of our culture. I mean, it's all about that.
No, wonderful. Thank you. So you were able to purchase this company, if you will. Jerry, the previous owner, it sounds like, was willing to ride along with you for 2 months, which is just wonderful and not very common, by the way. What was that experience like? Purchasing it, riding along with Jerry, learning about the clients, probably working 25 hours a day because maybe you were studying up on different products and different techniques and different pieces of equipment. What was that first 3 months or first year like at the company?
Well, let's break it down to a few different things, Austin. First of all, you said study. Yes. I mean, in our state, we are allowed to get a provisional license, which means I can work as long as there's someone that's a licensed pesticide applicator watching my back being responsible for me. So that was the first thing, but that only lasted 60 days. So I had to study and get licensed and pass at least the two categories, the general standards and then structural pest control. So I had to study to pass the tests, but I also had to study to understand what was going on. The first couple of months, I love Jerry and everything that he did for me. What I've learned since then is I learned a lot of the way it used to be and not the way it is. He did a lot of things that, every job was very similar. He was not a tech guy, so he simplified things so he could run his business on a pad of paper and it is kind of ridiculous. That's a whole another podcast. But so learning how to, studying to pass my test, studying to be a good technician, also learning routing. I introduced the concept of GPS to Jerry. He did everything with a map, like I talk about old school. Can you imagine? The joke with his son was, it was Jerry, let's see what, global positioning system, Jerry positioning system. Jerry had this town like the back of his hand. He knew exactly where to go. But that's because he'd been doing it for years. This company's been around since 1996, by the way, but just as an aside. So, learning how to do pest control, learning understanding what hurts for our clients. What are their pain points? Some people I would never see. But some people I would see every time, and they would always have a story and always something, and to keep an open ear and an open mind and just learn how to. Sometimes it's okay. I have this problem, but I need to talk to somebody about it, and I need to know that somebody's hearing me and feels my pain and has empathy. So that's frankly some of the carryover from my last profession as well. But I hope I'm answering your question. I kind of tend to get off. Side rant sometimes, but
you absolutely are. What also would you say, Carl, as you got into the industry and were learning from Jerry and obviously had different thoughts or ideas of your own, was there anything that was really eye-opening or anything that was kind of a big surprise to you getting into the industry, if you will?
Yes, absolutely. And frankly, it's one of my soapbox issues today. If you look at the material, let's just say a brand X, you look at the bottle and it says for use by licensed applicators only, for sale by prescription or some such language. Yet we go down to the box store and there it is. And okay, it says let's use only 0.8 ounces per gallon and only apply twice a year at this such and such rate. So if 0.8 ounces is good, let's glug a little bit more in there. If it says twice a year, that must mean twice a month. So now we have fish in the stream that are dying, and they test the water and they find out it's this nasty pesticide and it must be us. No, it's not. So that segued me into getting involved with our state leadership and whatnot. But in any event, that was the eye opener, that so many of these products are available for people who don't know how to use them and really cause more harm than good. I could go on a long rant about that. So, yeah.
Well, and there's a lot of issues too, like you said, Carl, with that. I know that they're, constantly in California. Like I said earlier, I'm in Phoenix right now, but, they are fighting the good fight with rodenticides. And, if there's a rodenticide or a pesticide in the groundwater or in a stream or in anywhere that it's not supposed to be, it immediately gets put back on pest control operators like you and me. And we're saying, wait, hold on a second. We're doing the best that we can to follow regulation, to get the continuing education, to use personal protective equipment, to follow the label. We jump through a lot of hoops, if you will, and spend a lot of our time and invest a lot of our money in getting licensed and certified and so on and so forth. And I'm certainly not proclaiming that, I'm perfect. or maybe that you are either, but I think that we do the best that we can with the education we have to keep people safe and households safe, and establishments such as schools and restaurants and so forth. And so it's and then when you can buy this stuff online or at your local feed store or wherever, and exactly as you've said, I've had that conversation dozens of times with, hey, well, if what it is recommending is good, then twice as good must be twice as good. Absolutely. And, that sort of thing. And it doesn't really work that way. That's kind of uneducated or amateur type thinking. The label is the label is the law, and those products have been tested, tried, true. I think at least over the last decade, I think that, what does it cost? I think it's like $10 million to bring a label to market because of all the research and development that has to go into it, and the testing, and the Environmental Protection Agency. They want to make sure that these things are safe and won't have long lasting or short lasting harmful type effects. So that definitely resonates with me too. Carl, one of the things I wanted to ask you about, and I think over the last decade or two, I know that you have been better in this area at some times. But that is the idea of work-life balance. I don't know what things were like when you were in the medical field, but you were probably in the early days of the business working around the clock. I know, as you kind of shared earlier, that you're that's something that could probably be improved right now. Talk to us about maybe tools that you've used or times where you feel that there's been a good balance of work-life balance, and what did you do to get there? And then are there things or exercises that you do to kind of identify if you're out of balance, or is it just something that or something that you feel? Because I think that that's something that I struggle with from time to time, and I think that lots of people listening do too. And so I'd love to hear your perspective on that.
Sure. I'm glad that we pivoted from that last topic, because I was about to get fired up about a whole bunch of stuff. Yeah. But anyway, to work-life balance, that was an opportunity in my previous life. In fact, I chose the specialty that I did because in my youthful with blinders on, I felt like, if I do this, I won't be on call 24/7. And lo and behold, I went into a private practice and I was on call 24/7. But fast forward into pest management and work-life balance. When we first acquired this business, there was no such thing as work-life balance. I mean, it was work, sleep, get up and go to work some more. The balance came. You had to look at the year in total, and the balance came because nothing happened from November until March. That was the balancing of it. That's not the way it is today. As we've grown during part of our journey, one of the things that happened is my wife worked with us, and she is wonderful, and that was good then, but not exactly healthy for our relationship. And I know some people can make that work, and we made it work, but it wasn't as healthy as it could be. Why? Because we work and then go home and talk more about work. So moving forward to today, a few of the things that first of all, I block time in my schedule for certain things. And some of those things are just to kind of chill, to have 20 minutes to just chill. I come to work. I usually get here before anyone does in my office. And that first 45 minutes, I can be more productive than I am probably the next 3 hours altogether. I try to leave at about 4 o'clock in Central Time. So I try to leave a little early. Weekends, I try to check out. We're blessed to have a big family, so that's easy to have distractions. In the summer, it's grandkids with baseball games or softball games. In the wintertime, it's basketball and more basketball. We have a good college team here that we like to follow, and so having time for activities that we can just check out of pest control is a good thing. Another thing that it's still a work in progress, quite frankly, for me. But I said before, as we grow, different problems present, and one of those problems that I have right now is, I have a fat head, but it can only wear so many hats, and I'm happy to deal some of these away, and to be. I mean, it's one thing to say I can delegate, but it's another thing to be effective and smart about it. So I'm learning to be a better delegator. And I think that, one of my shorter term objectives is to be fully involved in my business and work about 25 hours a week, and have people that I can delegate a lot of this management to. And so I can spend time with my wife, be with my family. That's why I get up in the morning. And like I said, I guess there's something to be said for when you find your true life partner.
Yeah, no, I think that you're right about that. How many hours, Carl, would you say you're working a week right now? You want to get down to 25. Where are you at today?
Probably 35, maybe 40. 35 in the wintertime. Unfortunately, it'll go back up to 40. Now, all bets are off when NPMA stuff goes on. I don't know if you've ever been to any of those meetings, but it is like drinking water from a fire hose. From the moment you open your eyes until you can't keep them open any longer, it's go, go, go. So that doesn't count. But not counting those events, probably 35 to 40, leaning more towards the 35 side.
Well, you delegate a couple of things and, bada bing, bada boom, you're there in no time.
You make it sound so easy, Austin.
I know. And, it's easier said than done. Kind of the final thing I wanted to talk about, or as we start to close this out the next handful of minutes, you're growing. You've crossed the 7-figure mark. The next big benchmark is the 8-figure mark. You've had double-digit percentage-wise growth since the beginning. How did you do it, Carl? How did you and your team do it?
Well, at first, if I'm being honest, and I'll always, isn't that a paradox? If someone said, if I'm being honest, that suggests that perhaps they wouldn't be honest at some point. But I honestly, in spite of ourselves, it's just hard work. There was no strategy to it. My father taught me a strong work ethic, and that's just how I do things. So we just worked hard. And then after a couple of years, we kind of scratched our head and said, well, I had this aha moment. I was on Omaha's kind of a spread out area. I was north and west doing a route, and someone south and east about 40 miles away had a hair on fire moment. And so, mind you, I'm answering my own phone by stopping my truck and taking my flip phone, listening through 8 voicemails to get to the one that matters. And then I get to that one and I call this person 40 miles away. I'm on my way, and I had to cancel the rest of this route where I was. That was my first aha moment. We need to have people to work for us. And then we started to get a little bit more strategic. Okay, let's get our business out of our home. Let's actually go to a building and treat this like a real business. And all right, next year, what do we want to do instead of look at what we did? I have to say, I have to give props to a couple of people. There was a man that he's since passed. He passed away a year or so ago. Are you familiar with the Executive Leadership Program in NPMA?
I have heard of it. I haven't delved into it really at all. Talk about it.
Okay. Well, Robbie, this person who's passed, Robbie Sashiva of American Pest in Manhattan, Kansas, great man. Anyway, he told me, he said, Carl, NPMA has this thing that I think you'd be good for. And I'm thinking, no way, why me? I'm not a bug guy. I mean, I'm a bug guy, but I'm not that kind of a person. Well, the next year, another friend of mine who's a powerhouse in our industry, and our interests overlapped because we're both aviators. And that's where we kind of crossed paths was airplanes. Anyway, he called me and said, Carl, I've written a letter of recommendation for you for ELP. You need an application by Friday, and I want a copy. And lo and behold, I'm sitting at the Purdue conference listening to Bobby Corrigan talk about rats, and I got the email that I had been selected for this. That was kind of a turning point in my career too. I knew I needed to get more technical staff so I could be more on the executive side of things, and the mentorship provided through that and the connections that I've made have really been priceless. So that was a big turning point. So
amazing.
Yeah. So anyway. Go ahead.
Go ahead. Yeah, no, it sounds like what I'm hearing then so far is you started to treat it more like not that it wasn't a real business before, but, out of the house into, a real business place. You got a realization about reliable people or people that you wanted to work with before that. Certainly mentors and friends that you've created in the industry that have helped advance your career, education, business. And then go on. I think that there was more.
Well, yeah, the mentorship has been priceless, and I've been blessed to be able to mentor a couple of folks as well, which has been a lot of fun. I learned probably more than they did, from helping them. It's the first couple of years we didn't even have a budget. Okay, now, when I had my practice before, I wasn't exactly the best businessman. It was like I just went to work and there's money in the bank, so we always had money to spend, and that was good. Well, as part of this journey to get to where we've been blessed enough to be, we've had to learn to budget and set goals and allocate things as far as expense-wise and whatnot, and to be able to project and plan and all those things that happen with any successful business. And that's been in probably the last 8 years that I've from the School of Hard Knocks. I have my MBA. A lot of what I knew before carried over, but a lot more was to come once I got into this industry. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, it makes plenty of sense. And, experience is and can be one of the greatest teachers, and you have had plenty of it in a lot of different regards. Carl, I so appreciate you carving time out of your day to spend with me and my audience. Thank you. What's the best way for people to either get a hold of you or to continue the conversation? Do they email you? Do they find you on LinkedIn? What's the best way to connect?
Probably the best way is to, you can email me at carl@qpcomaha.com. Our website is qpcomaha.com. You can reach out through that and send a message to our office. That's probably the best way to get a hold of me. Wonderful.
Well, Carl Braun, everybody, thank you again so much for your time. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in and listening. I love putting these out. I love having great guests like Carl on. And until the next time, create a great day.
Thank you for listening to the Multiply You podcast. You'll see us again soon when you subscribe for future episodes.